You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
The bleeding is done. And Trump is twisting the knife, based on an article by D. Earl Stevens. Trump is not a misunderstanding. He is the operating system. The story is power, not personality. The source article is right about one thing: this is not a personality problem. Trump is not an accident drifting through history. He is a man who has repeatedly used institutional power, stolen institutional patience, and normalized institutional cowardice. The useful question is not whether he is grotesque. It is who kept making room for him after the first theft, the second lie, and the third open assault on the vote. The decision was made by the people around him. The article names the machinery more clearly than most coverage does: the Senate, Congress, the Supreme Court, the military, and a federal enforcement apparatus that acts like a loyalist militia when Trump wants it to. That is the story. Trump does not rule by charisma alone. He rules because Republican institutions and their enablers keep treating him as a valid political actor after every disqualifying act. The violence is not personal improvisation, it is administration. The big lie was not confusion. The source is strongest when it describes Trump's post-election actions as a launch, not a reaction. He declared victory before the count was done, tried to force the count to stop, and then unleashed pressure on election workers and officials. That was not a muddle of bad feelings. It was a deliberate attempt to break democratic procedure while the ballots were still being processed. The framing that this was merely the tantrum of a desperate man is too soft. It hides intent behind psychology. I see the as state violence, not a staffing problem. The article's mention of a killing in Maine by Trump's masked ICE agents points to the real character of the enforcement state. ICE is not in need of better branding or a few disciplinary memos. It is a political weapon with a paper trail and a mandate to terrorize. If a government maintains masked, armed agents who can kill with impunity in service of a racist and anti-democratic project, the answer is abolition, not reform theater. The democratic failure is real. The source is also right to call out the Democratic Party's disorganization, but the failure is not moral equivalence. It is strategic weakness. Democrats are not the mirror image of Trump's movement. They are the only institutional vehicle available to stop authoritarian consolidation, and too often they behave like a consulting firm with ballots instead of an opposition party. They're the backbone. Weak leadership, timid framing, and chronic underestimation of the threat are not minor flaws. They are how democracies get eaten. The pattern is normalization of authoritarian rule. The deeper pattern here is simple: Trump's movement depends on making each outrage feel like just another day. The media trims the danger. Institutions absorb the abuse. Officials wait for the next cycle. That delays the point. Authoritarian politics does not always arrive with a coup announcement. Sometimes it arrives as repetition, impunity, and a country trained to mistake escalation for routine. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of Kristen, thanks for listening.